As more women tell their stories about sexual harassment in the workplace, one Congresswoman is saying, "Me too." Nancy Cordes has more from Capitol Hill.
I know what it's like to keep these things hidden.
California's Jackie Speier says her Me Too story happened on Capitol Hill, but in the 1970s when she was a low-level staffer.
The chief of staff held my face, kissed me, and stuck his tongue in my mouth.
The five-term Congresswoman argues the same boys' club culture exists today because Congress operates literally by its own set of rules. A law passed in 1995 requires congressional victims of sexual harassment or misconduct to undergo 30 days of counseling, then a 30-day mediation period before they can pursue a hearing or a lawsuit. Settlements, when they happen, are paid not by members or their offices, but by a special U.S. Treasury fund. Unlike most federal workers, lawmakers and their aides are not required to get sexual harassment training.
Do I use salty language? Yep.
In recent years, New York's Eric Massa and Florida's Mark Foley were forced out for sexual misconduct. In 2015, Texas Congressman Blake Farenthold settled a harassment lawsuit brought by a former aide. But some female lawmakers believe the problem runs much deeper.
Because Congress has been a breeding ground for a hostile work environment for far too long.
And Nancy joins us now from Capitol Hill. Nancy, in your piece, you mentioned Congress operates by its own set of rules. Representative Speier called the Office of Compliance a joke. What needs to change, and where would those changes come from?
Well, female lawmakers say that it is just too cumbersome and too confusing for women who work here on Capitol Hill to report instances of sexual harassment. And in fact, they go a step further and say that there's a lot of confusion about what actually constitutes sexual harassment because staffers here on Capitol Hill, uniquely in the federal government, don't get mandatory training about sexual harassment. There's just a completely different set of operating procedures here on the Hill than there is in the rest of the federal government. And what the byproduct has been of that sort of Byzantine set of rules is that you have a much lower rate of reports from women and men of harassment, of misconduct, than you do from other parts of the federal government. Not these lawmakers believe because there's less harassment here on the Hill. If anything, they believe that there is more, but because women feel intimidated, they feel that they won't be listened to, and they don't want to go through this arduous process of 30 days of counseling, 30 days of arbitration, just to file a report about a male superior who they believe has behaved improperly.
Yeah, Nancy, you mentioned the lower rate of reports. The Office of Compliance in 2016 received 15 complaints of harassment or a hostile work environment. But we know that harassment is widely underreported. Is harassment on the Hill a much bigger problem than we realize?
You know, if you talk to female staffers here on Capitol Hill, they all have a story, and that, you know, mirrors what you see if you're in almost any profession. A lot of women who have worked in any industry for a long period of time have at least one story of something that has happened that made them uncomfortable. The challenge here on Capitol Hill is it's still a very male-dominated culture. You know, men still outnumber women when it comes to positions of power. Here on Capitol Hill, the ultimate positions of power, lawmakers, you only have 20 female senators compared to 80 men. So there is still an imbalance that creates a situation where women staffers, particularly young women staffers, might feel intimidated about reporting wrongdoing. They might feel that it would adversely affect their careers. And that's why you have Congresswomen like Speier coming out publicly and sharing their stories, both of harassment that took place here on the Hill and off the Hill as well, to sort of encourage these young women to speak up when something happens to them, that it is a new day, that you will be okay if you report what happened to you. But she's also going a step further and encouraging female former staffers here on the Hill to speak out and share their stories as well, to create a culture where young women realize it isn't just happening to them, that other people have weathered it as well, and that they should feel more comfortable coming forward.
Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill, thank you.
You're welcome.